Here we go. I'm Brian Middleton, Fort Bend County District Attorney. First of all, I would like to commend several agencies for the arrests related to the death of James O'Connor Jr. These agencies that were involved in this investigation were Precinct 4 Constable's Office, the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, and the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department. Drinking and driving is bad enough. When it causes a death, it's particularly horrible. And we want to send a message to the community that we will hold you accountable. We will also hold those people who serve alcohol and oversell to people. We will also hold them accountable. We will continue to keep Fort Bend County safe. I'm going to let Allison Bainbridge speak. She's one of the new hires. She's an expert in intoxication manslaughter cases, and she's going to give you a description of this case. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure you have a little bit of background related to this fatality crash. The crash occurred on January the 12th here in 2020. Mr. O'Connor is a 17-year-old victim in the case. You guys might have seen it on some other news coverage earlier in January. It happens off of Lum Road in Beasley, which is here in Fort Bend County. Basically what these investigators have been able to uncover in the days and the weeks that follow this investigation is that our defendant in that case, Lee Trevino Jr., was traveling at an extremely high rate of speed down Lum Road as a danger to himself, his passengers, and anyone else that happened to be on or around the roadway at that time. He lost control of his vehicle that contained Mr. O'Connor. His vehicle traveled almost 400 feet into various trees before coming to rest with a collision with the tree. The vehicle then was engulfed in flames. Mr. Trevino was pulled from the car right prior to the fire by a witness who I believe got some awards, right?
Yes.
For being one of our Fort Bend County heroes. He then fled. He didn't make any attempt, as far as we know, to help his passenger. He was gone from the scene for hours when these investigators were doing their investigation. He eventually returns. He's able to be identified as the driver. There were some indications of intoxication. We were able to obtain a sample from him. Those results are pending right now. But the officers didn't stop there. These deputies went ahead and continued their investigation to try to find the beginning of the story, so to speak. These deputies were able to identify the brewings that both the defendant and the complainant were at prior to the crash. They reviewed hours of surveillance video and were able to identify 2 additional defendants. Ms. Gonzalez, that's right.
Edith Gonzalez.
Melendez. Sorry. Edith Melendez is a server at the brewings where our defendant and our complainant were drinking prior to the crash. After several hours of video review by these deputies, they were able to identify that she at no time asked for identification from either the defendant, who is 19, or the victim, who is 17 at the time of his death. In addition to that, she allowed them to purchase alcohol directly from her in the upwards of almost a dozen pitchers, I think. Is that right?
That's correct.
At some point in time, even drinking straight out of the pitcher before they left. The deputies made sure they crossed all their T's and dotted their I's. They spoke with TABC to confirm that they were in fact violating the law. Ms. Melendez was over-serving an intoxicated person. She was also serving a minor without ID. So in addition to that, they identified another individual that was furnishing alcohol to a minor, which is also a criminal offense. These are all Class A misdemeanors. Mr. Trevino's brother, correct?
Yes.
Also now has a warrant out for his arrest for furnishing alcohol to a minor. The deputies have made a bunch of efforts to attempt to find him, but currently he's on the run. So if anyone finds him or sees him, I think we're going to give you guys a photo of him. Please contact Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constable's Office, Sheriff's Office, even the DA's office, so that we can find him and apprehend him for his part in the crime that resulted in Mr. O'Connor's death.
Joe, you want to speak?
Sure. My name is John Herman. I'm the Chief Deputy at the Precinct 4 Constable's Office here in Fort Bend County. First, I want to thank all the agencies. This was an interagency effort to work these cases. So we had cooperation from the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department, from the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, and of course from the DA's office. So working together, we're doing our best to catch up with these guys. I will tell you the special thanks too for Sergeant Garrett and Deputy Taylor for all their investigative efforts on tracking this down. They spent numerous hours investigating this, and we're watching a lot of video to determine who's at fault in this. It's really a tragedy for of course, Mr. O'Connor that lost his life, but also for our victim. His life most likely will be ruined, and then the people that we've here to announce that we've arrested for over serving and providing alcohol to a minor. I will tell you, last night, as she said, Ms. Melendez was taken into custody at her place of employment. This morning, we did attempt to serve the warrant on Vicente Joshua Castillo IV. We attempted to serve it at his house in El Campo, and then we found out that he went to his work in Clute, and so we went there. His wife tipped him off, and now he's in the wind. So we are actively seeking Vicente Joshua Castillo, goes by Ben, or Joshua. He's 25 years old, Hispanic male. So we have an active warrant for him that's entered in the computer, and we're going to do our best to track him down as soon as possible. That's all I got to say. I'm certainly open it up to some questions that you may have, or maybe my investigators can answer for you.
What type of charges can the defendants get and the penalties?
Sure.
So Mr. Castillo's warrant is for furnishing alcohol to a minor. Ms. Melendez's warrant was for serving an underage person and also serving an over-serving an intoxicated person. Those are all misdemeanors. Mr. Trevino's case, like I said before, are still pending toxicological evidence results. But I anticipate that he will be facing multiple charges. He fled the scene of an accident that it results in death, which is a second-degree felony. With the information we have so far here, it's very clear that his driving behavior that was related to the death, it rises to the level of a criminal offense. We just want to make sure that we have all the information before we charge him to charge him correctly.
Are you guys releasing the name of the business that they serve the alcohol at?
I think I said it before, but it was the Brewings, but I don't remember.
It's in Rosenberg.
Okay.
We can get that. We can tell
Okay.
you the address.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those words it's hard for me to say. Brewings.
Wings.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any pending arrests?
We're actively looking for Mr. Castillo at this time. So that was we were out there looking for him this morning. We're going to continue to do that. Again, the warrant's in the computer. So really, Mr. Castillo, the best thing to do is just turn yourself in.
Can you guys give us, any of y'all can give us a message here at Fort Bend County about drinking and serving and all this stuff?
Sure. I think when Mr. Middleton was talking to you, he made it clear that it is something that is important to him because it affects your county. The citizens of this county deserve to be able to be on their roadways safely anytime, day, night, in some rural street or on the highway. Everybody deserves to be able to drive their car and get home. That didn't happen here. Mr. O'Connor's never got home. Neither did Mr. Trevino. But in this situation, it's important for the citizens of Fort Bend County to know that we're here, and we are going to continue to do investigations like this one on any kind of vehicular-related death where there is a criminal action, where their criminal offense is potentially able to be charged. But everyone's doing that to make sure that the roads here stay safe, so that moms and dads go home to their kids, so that these officers go home to their families, and so you and I get home and to work every day. Because if we don't continue to make sure that the county knows that we're here, we're going to do these prosecutions to make sure that they stay safe, it will just keep happening.
And the people serving the alcohol are also being held accountable, right?
Correct. So in cases where there is alcohol involved in a crash, it is part of the investigation to attempt to identify where that started and where, if it continued, where it continued, because those persons under the law can also be held liable. They go through training, or at least they're supposed to go through training with TABC, so that they understand when they're supposed to identify people, when they're supposed to stop serving persons, all that information. When they don't do that, they're violating the law and putting our citizens at risk. So we want to make sure that the entire community knows if you're doing something related to these crimes that upon our investigation we can identify was a partial involvement, that you're going to be held responsible for that crime, just like you would any other crime.
I'd like to add is what you're seeing is a collaboration of a number of different agencies, including this district attorney's office, as part of an overall commitment to keep Fort Bend County safe. Unfortunately, dead people can't speak, but we will speak for these victims, and we'll make sure people who are responsible for the death of James O'Connors will be held accountable. If you have a business in Fort Bend County and you serve alcohol, be on notice that we will hold you accountable if you oversell alcohol. So I'd like to thank all the agencies that were involved, and I also need to mention that Allison Bainbridge was deliberately hired as an expert so this office can be tough on these type of crimes. So intoxication manslaughter will be pursued aggressively by this office, and I'd like to thank everyone here for being a part of this effort.